World War II was one of the greatest tragedies to befall the Polish nation. However, the Gdańsk Museum decided to put Nazi soldiers from Pomerania on a pedestal. The scandalous exhibition, Our Boys, at the Gdańsk Museum is causing a lot of controversy, but the organisers don't see anything wrong with it. We are not considering any changes because the term Our Boys is actually a question about how we should remember the fate of tens, hundreds of thousands of people forcibly conscripted into the Wehrmacht during World War II. However, the name itself, although scandalous, is a minor issue. A more serious matter, of course, is the content of the exhibition, which romanticizes service in the Wehrmacht. Participation in the criminal German army is presented as a beautiful adventure and an opportunity to see the world. When they left their hometowns, they were accompanied by fear and depression, but often also by excitement caused by the new experience and the opportunity to see previously unknown places. It is true that hundreds of thousands of Poles were forcibly conscripted into the German army without any choice, but presenting this practice as something pleasant is a violation of history and decency, and at the same time subliminally diminishes the scale of German crimes. From this exhibition, a layman, I'm not talking about a person who is interested, I'm talking about tourists who will come here. For these tourists, it simply means that Poles, as it says here, were accompanied by fear, depression, but often also excitement caused by a new experience and the opportunity to see previously unknown places. The Germans will come and enjoy themselves. What a trip we've given these Poles, huh? Historians point to the anti-Polish tone of this infamous exhibition, which fails to mention German crimes against Poles. Citizens of the Second Republic are referred to as former citizens, even though an underground state operated in the occupied territories and a government in exile worked in London. Here, visitors will not learn that this forced military service was, after all, for Polish citizens, whom the authors of the exhibition refer to as former Polish citizens, thus recognizing, to put it bluntly, the legitimacy of the decisions of the German occupation authorities, that these young residents, young Polish citizens, were forcibly conscripted into the German uniformed services, that this whole phenomenon was part of a very harsh, restrictive Germanization policy pursued in this area. Importantly, the co-author of this exhibition is the Museum of the Second World War. This means that the authority of the Polish state, led by Donald Tusk, is endorsing an exhibition that absolves the Germans of responsibility for the crimes of the Second World War. The Polish state is involved in this exhibition and absolutely should not be doing so. Even if Gdańsk, enamored with the free city, wanted to do this, the Polish state should not participate, and should even do everything in its power to ensure that such a narrative is not present in this exhibition. This exhibition may go ahead, but it must have a completely different narrative. A narrative that shows the trauma and problems of Poles, not satisfaction that our boys marched like German boys, that our boys joined the Wehrmacht. This is scandalous. Interwar Gdańsk, although free on paper, was in practice dominated by Germans fanatically devoted to Adolf Hitler. When Our Boys surrendered after the heroic defense of Westerplatte, the Germans from Gdańsk demanded that they be shot. And today, in Polish Gdańsk, there are occasional bizarre statements or shameful actions. For decades, Germans have been trying to distort history. The blame for their crime is to be borne by unspecified Nazis, and in such a mass devoid of nationality, there could also have been Poles, and such a falsified message is being spread around the world. Mind modelling begins in German schools, as Poles who were educated there warn. I had to teach Germans history all over again. In their books and at school, it looked as if a group of Nazis had gathered and set out to conquer the world. But in fact, it wasn't them. It was someone else entirely. The falsification of history does not end with school. A year ago, we managed to record a misleading graphic on the building of the German Foreign Ministry, which suggests that the war began in 1938. The attack on Poland was omitted, and our country was already depicted within its post-war borders. This is a testament to the failure of Polish historical policy and the failure of this alliance, this friendship that everyone assures us of, because if, after 30 years of our friendship, so to speak, we are slapped in the face with something like this, in the very centre of German policy making and in the very centre of the institution that is responsible for this declared friendship with Poland, then we have to ask ourselves how we have come to suffer such a great defeat. Perhaps this failure is the result, among other things, of exhibitions that are part of the so-called pedagogy of shame, that is, forcing Poland and Poles to atone for German sins. This exhibition fits well with German historical policy, I have no doubt about that. Ordinary Poles disagree with these historical falsifications, as expressed at a demonstration in Gdańsk. The blurring of Polish identity in areas that belonged to Germany in the past is becoming more and more prevalent. Suspicious activities are taking place in Silesia, and a strange sentiment towards Germany in Gdańsk makes itself felt from time to time. Their intensity allows us to ask whether they are directed from the same source.